I need to focus on establishing little islands of peace in my world. It doesn't do the world any good to retreat into your anxiety to the point that it's debilitating and that you are paralyzed. If you are feeling paralyzed, if you feel like you can't do anything, then you need to take a breath and find a way to give yourself the space to heal enough to get back up. You're listening to Hysteria, the podcast for people who probably haven't gotten very much sleep over the last couple of nights.
Not much.
Not much sleep, and aren't sure they're ready for a joke yet.
Not ready for a joke.
No. Okay.
No.
So here's how the show's going to go today, folks. Alyssa and I are going to talk about some of the races that we have been tracking on the show, for better or for worse. And then we are going to talk about kind of what it all means. And there's going to be a lot of what it all means in the coming weeks. There's going to be reporting coming out. But we know that you guys tune in because it feels like we're all kind of besties at a hang.
In it together.
In it together. And so we are going to just kind of go through all the ugly and the optimistic and the ways that those two things intermingle, if at all. So let's get to the facts first. Alyssa, let's talk about the races that we tracked this cycle.
Well, we are so excited. We were
You
able to
sound
have.
so excited, Alyssa.
So let's see. Kristen McDonald Rivet in Michigan 8, U.S. Congress. The first ones we're going to talk about are all U.S. Congress. She won.
Great.
She won her seat. We are excited. It's been called. She won. Amelia Sykes in Ohio 13 also won, which was great because her race was a toss-up up until Election Day. Andrea Salinas in Oregon 6. She is projected to win and has declared victory. They have not called it in Oregon yet because they are still counting ballots, but it looks like she is in pretty good shape. Yadira Caraveo in Colorado's 8. As of 10 o'clock Eastern time today, she was leading 49.5 to 48%. She only won her seat by 1% in 2022, so fingers crossed. Susan Wild in Pennsylvania 7. As of our recording, she is down 49.3 to 50.7. This was tight going in, and it looks like she may not eke it out, but we're going to keep our fingers crossed. And last for Congress in New Jersey 7, Sue Altman. As of this morning, she has lost to Tom Keene, 52.5 to 45.7. She was trying to flip it back, but didn't work.
State level races, Diamond Staten Williams in the North Carolina House District 73, as of recording, has lost 46.65 to 53.3%. A bright spot in North Carolina, Michelle Morrow, who the absolute crazy person who was like,
honestly, I was so worried to look this one up. I was like, dear God, I'm not sure I can handle it.
I know it was too much, but she did lose the race for superintendent of public instruction. I would say that is the educational equivalent of if let's say Ted Bundy were running for Surgeon General. You know, you don't want.
Yes.
Just
she was going to be bad all around, and anyway, we are glad that that's a bright spot for sure.
Right, and Stephanie Simicek of Arizona House District 2, as of 10 a.m., not quite called. She's leading, which is exciting. Jamie Churches of Michigan House District 27 is not called. Churches is down by a couple percentage points there. Anna Payne of Pennsylvania's 142nd House District has lost. Avery Bishop of Texas House District 112 also has lost. Mai Zhang of the Michigan House District 13 won.
Yes.
Amazing.
Isn't that great?
Lorena Austin, the Arizona State House District Representative in District 9, who we have had on the show a couple times, is leading.
Yep.
Which is great. Ava Birch for the Arizona State Senate hasn't been called yet, but she is leading. Sarah Henry has lost Florida House District 38. Dallas Harris is trailing in the Nevada Senate District 11 race by about 4 percentage points. So we'll see what happens there. Anna Thomas in Pennsylvania State House District 137 has lost. And Lauren Ashley Simmons of the Texas District 146 has won. So that's
not just
exciting.
one, landslide.
Landslide. So
We love to see it.
That's exciting. Okay. Now we're going to talk about some of the measures that we've been tracking. As our listeners know, there were 10 states where abortion was on the ballot, and abortion really had a pretty good day at the polls, especially considering how far to the right everything shifted last night. Like, we cannot even, we'll go into that in a little bit, but everything voted redder than people expected it to vote and was more red than in 2020. But despite that, despite the fact that New York is sliding down the hill toward being a purple state.
Wow.
New York passed the right to abortion with 61.9%. So people cannot be denied rights based on their ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, or sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, pregnancy outcomes, and reproductive health care and autonomy. That is huge.
It's huge. And the thing that's actually really great about that is that there was not a lot of money put behind that. That was really just people walking into the election booth and reading it and agreeing that that should be correct. So that's good.
Florida Amendment 4 failed to reach the 60% threshold that it needed to reach to pass. It got 57.2% of the vote, but in the state of Florida, that is not enough.
Well, you know what, though, Erin? In a way, can we look at it as like a little bit of a victory, considering how much money and like illegal state resources Ron DeSantis put behind it to try to kill it?
I mean, it is an expression of, it is a glimmer of hope, but it is not a victory in any way.
No, it's not a victory. It's not a victory,
I mean, women all over the South will continue to have to travel absurd distances to obtain abortion care because Florida was the place up until the 6-week ban was enacted that many of them went to receive care, and it is no longer an option because their 6-week ban stands. Arizona Prop 139 passed 61.7%, providing the right to abortion before the point of fetal viability. Just a reminder to listeners, that is the protection that Roe offered. That is what Roe v. Wade was. Up until fetal viability, elective abortions are protected. Colorado Amendment 79, the right to abortion and health insurance coverage passed 61.5%, creates a right to abortion in the state constitution and allows the use of public funds for abortion. I anticipate some legal slap fighting over that.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Thanks a lot, Hyde Amendment.
Yeah.
Maryland Question 1, the right to abortion passed 74%. Which establishes a right to reproductive freedom, which is great. Missouri Amendment 3, the right to abortion, passed 51.7%, which establishes a right to reproductive freedom up to the point of fetal viability. So that is also, that's exciting and kind of unexpected in a red state. In Montana, the right to abortion care passed with 57.2%. Nebraska Initiative 434, prohibit abortion after the first trimester, passed. So that's bad.
That's bad.
That's bad. So that means that the state constitution has been amended to prohibit abortion after the first trimester unless necessitated by a medical emergency or the pregnancy is a result of sexual assault or incest. Now, let me remind listeners that something like 90% of abortions take place during the first trimester.
Right.
But that 10% that takes place after the first trimester is often the result of like something unexpected or catastrophic or tragic and isn't necessarily always life-threatening, but can quickly become life-threatening. So that is a basura law. Nebraska Initiative 439, the right to abortion, failed. Nevada Question 6, right to abortion, passed with 63.2%. And South Dakota's Amendment G, right to abortion, failed. So that's, I can't say that was unexpected in South Dakota. Abortion rights, when they are directly on the ballot, still have overwhelmingly been victorious. And so that is a green shoot here. School choice was a hot topic down the ballot this year, and we have been tracking some of those ballot measures. Colorado Amendment 80. Kentucky Amendment 2, which would allow state funds to be used for non-public education like charter schools, failed.
What do you know about that?
Interesting. I find that very interesting.
65% of voters casting their ballots against the measure. That wasn't just a little, it was a lot.
It was a lot. And you know what is also really interesting? J.D. Vance, the vice president-elect, which is a gross thing to say, but J.D. Vance is like, school choice is like one of his big...
He loves it.
One of the chickens he likes fucking the most. And I'm sorry, that is so gross. But it's massively unpopular when put up to the voters. So I find that super interesting. That might be a way that Democrats and progressives can exploit a vulnerability on the GOP platform. In North Dakota, a constitutional measure that would have cut property taxes, which also would have cut funding to schools, failed.
It's good.
Good news. Good news. In Nebraska, an education scholarship program referendum that I don't want to get too in the weeds here was bad, was rejected by voters. Got some other wins too, Alyssa. Let's go down the list.
Okay, Sarah McBride, Delaware state senator, won the state's only House seat Tuesday, making her the first openly transgender person elected to Congress. That is exciting. Shamari Figures wins the bid to represent the Alabama district embroiled in the Supreme Court case. With 84% of the votes reported Tuesday, Figures had 54.8% of the vote to 45.1% for Dobson. Just a reminder that in 2023, the Supreme Court upheld an earlier ruling stating that Alabama's district map likely discriminated against black voters and mandated redrawing the second district. So, Shamari, congratulations.
That's exciting. The U.S. Senate, also for the first time in history, has 2 black women who are about to serve.
Amazing.
Delaware Representative Lisa Blunt Rochester and Prince George's County, Maryland Executive Angela Alsobrooks made history. They both won their U.S. Senate races, which is super exciting. I saw Angela Alsobrooks speak at the DNC. She was so impressive. She's been a guest on Pod Save.
Yep.
And both of these wonderful women, future senators, are welcome on Hysteria whenever they want.
Anytime.
Just putting that out there. We would love to talk to them. Super exciting stuff in a news cycle that is not all that exciting or happy.
No, but these are all really good, positive things that in the darkness we can be like, okay, some good things are still happening. Green shoots, as you'd say.
Green shoots.
Green shoots.
That's all we can focus on right now. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what happened last night, though, Alyssa.
Okay.
Where's your head? How you doing?
I feel like numb, I think. I think that there were, not a lot of sleep, right? A lot of tears this morning. And as I say tears, I can feel them. I can feel them welling up. I think it's really hard to believe. I mean, it's true. We see it. It wasn't just that he won. It was a fucking ass kicking. It is hard as a woman to not take personally.
I think you should take it personally. I'm taking it personally.
That's why the tears are a little hard to choke back, because I think in 2016 and the years, it's been 8 years since 2016. I think that in 2016, there was a lot we could tell ourselves, right? Yes, Hillary was the most qualified person, not just woman, person probably to ever run for president. But we had a Democrat for 8 years, right? Hard to get over that threshold. Clinton fatigue, right? She didn't travel to a lot of the blue wall states leading up to the election. There were things you could say. There were like identifiable mistakes. There were circumstances that you could tell yourself, maybe this is why it happened. That seemed reasonable, Mm-hmm. That's not now. That's not now.
Right. There was plausible deniability.
Right.
Beyond a lot of people in the U.S. just fucking hate women. Just fucking hate us. They just hate us.
They hate us.
They either hate us or they think that our rights are less important than what a serial liar has told them about what tariffs do.
Right.
I think that a lot of the economy language, the inflation language that people used as justification for their Trump support was just kind of a paper gown covering their sexism and racism. And
with no ties. There were no ties on the paper gown.
Butt crack straight out.
Like, everywhere.
You're like, I know your crack's out back there. You don't need to keep saying it's the
like
economy.
that scene in Something's Gotta Give where Jack Nicholson is in the hospital and he's just shuffling down the hallway, just fucking ass hanging out. That's where we're at.
Cheeks out, ass out.
Yep.
My reaction to this is going to oscillate, I'm warning listeners, between like rage, controlled rage, because I am feeling numb. I have shed 0 tears and I've gotten 2 hours of sleep. Rage and something to chew on, I guess, not advice, but just like something to chew on as we move forward into this world that we live in. So the first thing I want to say is I feel like this victory of Donald Trump was brought to us by an absolute rainbow coalition of dupes and assholes. And I am disappointed but not surprised that in seeing the election returns. I was too hopeful in trying to assess like what the situation was like out there. I realized looking at the preliminary exit polling about like demographics and stuff, you know, of course there's that really annoying stat that's like annoying / embarrassing. That's like white women still voted for Donald Trump. But if you take a look at education levels, white women who didn't go to college overwhelmingly supported Donald Trump, and white women who did not. And I realized that I don't really talk to any like white women who didn't go to college. I don't know that many of them, especially between the ages of like 45 and 65. I don't talk to people I don't know those people, you know? And so my sense of where the country was going and where the enthusiasm was just has this huge like blind spot. But the thing is, like, I don't really, I'm going to sound like an asshole, but this is my show. I don't really care to talk to those people. I don't want to. I don't have much in common with them. I don't feel like I feel like there is a grievance and a mutually agreed upon hatred that unites a lot of people who are die-hard MAGA that I cannot relate to, and I don't want polluting my life.
Well, I think that part of that, I hang out with a lot more people like that than you do. But I think it is in this election, the people who we have thought of as like the hardcore MAGA, the coalition is so bigger. I think that's the really heartbreaking part, right? That there is the percentage of the country that you're like, okay, these people double down on everything he thinks and everything he says, but it's actually there are more people in our backyard, right, than I think we thought based on the results last night.
Yeah, young men are, you know, I should maybe take back all the complaining about men my age that I've ever done, because women under 30, you got a bunch of real pieces of work. They're not great. Another thought that I had was the amount of disrespect that this country has just shown Black women who have given everything to civic participation, to the political process, and gotten absolutely fucking jack shit in return. The amount of disrespect that this country has shown them is obscene. It is like obscenity. And I have no words for anybody who's listening who is a Black woman in the U.S. that could possibly make anyone feel better, beyond the fact that my heart just absolutely goes out to Black women today specifically, because this is gross. Like the handicap that Donald Trump got, being a barely coherent, like dumb idiot white guy. Like he got his ass handed to him in the debate. His plans made very little sense. Any follow-up questions asked to any MAGA people like produce pretty much gobbledygook. And he has like bad plans. He was a bad president. He has a track record of fucking up everything he's ever touched.
He's a criminal.
Everything he's ever touched has just like turned to absolute shit. And we had a qualified, intelligent Black woman with plans, with a direction, with a vision, with energy, and we still picked the fucking old white floppy pink loser. Like I am,
who had the floppy VP.
Yeah, with like the least.
There was not one redeeming quality in that package. No. Not one. And you know, like first of all, watching, do you know the only thing that should be on television right now is the Yule log? Like, they should just be the log with the burning and Christmas music, because there's like, cable news is such a cesspool right now of upbeat, here's why it happened, and blah, blah. No, guys, listen.
It's a sexism, stupid.
He believes everything he fucking said. He believes it. He's going to protect us whether we want it or not. Guys, he meant it. RFK in charge of healthcare? He meant it. He has meant it. And so I just, it's a dark day.
Let me give you something to chew on. I'm not trying to give a little pep talk.
Okay.
At all, but let me give you just something to chew on. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump says whatever he needs to say in any situation to get what he wants, right?
Right.
But he did say some things on the campaign trail this time around.
Yes, he did.
That I was like, that's a fucking lie. But what if we held him to it? Like, what if we held him to his...
I see where you're going.
What if we held him to his IVF comments? What if we held him to his garbled nonsense answer about childcare?
Yeah.
Where he indicated that he cared about it. You know, what if we, because I know that those things are across the board issues. Conservative women who voted for him care about childcare. A lot of them either have kids or have grandkids that they're looking after. Like, they care about those things. Like, let's hold him to it. Did you vote for Donald Trump because he told you that he would cover IVF? Then, like, fucking hold him to it. Hold him to it. Maybe he'll actually do it. He's not trying to suck up to pro-lifers anymore. He can't run for re-election. I mean...
It's a good point.
I mean, my lips to God's ears. He can't run for re-election constitutionally. But, you know, what's the Constitution to Donald Trump but, you know... a piece of old toilet paper. So that's one thing I can say. Like, let's actually be like, okay, dude, like, cough it up. Like, let's do this. You said you were going to, so do it. The second thing I want to say is, like, I have been covering elections, writing about politics since like 2010. And every single election, with like a couple of exceptions, it has been a slow backslide toward hell. And every single election, I have felt like this is my last one. Like, I'm like an old cop at the beginning of a movie that's like, all right, I'll come back for one more case.
One more.
And I'm so tired of doing this. And this was literally going to be my last one. Like, I was going to not do this anymore. And now I feel like I have to. And the reason that I feel like I have to is because I have 2 daughters. Like, I've got 2 daughters, and I still live in this country, and my family lives in this country, and I can't just say fuck it and bail. I think that what I have decided is the path forward for me. And it might not be for everybody listening. It's fine. Just giving you something to think about. Is I need to focus on establishing little islands of peace in my world where I can regain the strength that I need to go out and fight for the people who are in the line of fire, so to speak. And to be the person I need to be for my family, and to be the person I need to be for my friends. And by that, I mean, it doesn't do the world any good to retreat into your anxiety to the point that it's debilitating and that you are paralyzed. If you are feeling paralyzed, if you feel like you can't do anything, then you need to take a breath and find a way to give yourself the space to heal enough to get back up. You know, and I don't want to be like, you could do it. Maybe that means like just turning off the news for like 3 weeks and then being like, okay, I'm ready. Maybe that means just like fucking off for 4 years. No judgment. I can't judge other people's journeys here. But if there is a way for you to just sit in your car for 5 minutes every day and take deep breaths in the silence, or pick up a hobby that you've kind of let go to the wayside, and on a day that you might find yourself doom scrolling, do something else instead. You know, like, find the space to build your strength to get up and wake up every morning and go out there and be who you need to be for your family and your friends and your loved ones, because people depend on you. You know, people are depending on me. People are depending on you, Alyssa. We're going to keep showing up. We're going to have to. There's no other choice.
Well, and I think everything you say is correct. And I think the way to think about it too is Donald Trump's barely going to show up for work. He golfed more than anybody else, and so I think...
He golfed for a full year. A whole year of golfing out of 4 years.
So he takes a lot of mental health. The people who work for him take a lot of mental health time. And so I think that, like yesterday when everything, was very unknown, right? Like yesterday afternoon, I was like, all right, I was so anxious. And at this stage of my life, anxiety just produces debilitating hot flashes. So I'm like, this isn't going to help me. And I went out and I was like, what can I do? And I took all of my garden pots from the summer and I was like, let's prepare them for winter. And for an hour, I did genuinely forget what was happening. And I got something done for me. I got something off my to-do list. And I felt better and my heart rate went down. And I think that everybody has to do whatever it takes to lift their spirits and get their heart rate down.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's like when you're on an airplane, you got to put on your own mask before you
Yep.
turn and help the person next to you. And whatever, right now we are all putting on our own mask. And because the goal is that we will help each other and support each other through this, whatever happens, however it looks. Like the other week in the office, Lovett kind of gave us a pep talk about how the race looked. And I'm not going to give all the details of it, but he said at one point that if this goes in Trump's direction, if Trump wins, there is still a lot of ground to hold on to, and there's a lot of people on that ground. And the people who have the ability and the strength to stand up and defend that ground, now's the time to do it. This is it. This is the time to do it. And we're going to be here. Alyssa and I were we were gonna just be like, what if we did a home improvement show? What if we did a show about
But here's the thing, we can still, listen, maybe that's how we're making space. Maybe we're gonna do a little home improvement segment, okay? I got a mouse again today. I got another fucking mouse, all right? I am literally an exterminator.
Oh, no.
It was alive, okay?
Oh, God, you know what? We had a raccoon problem. It wasn't a problem to me because I think raccoons are funny and awesome, and I like when they're around. But it was a problem to the landlord. The landlord was like, "You guys got to get rid of these raccoons." And so we had to hire a like humane trapper, and they just catch them in a cage and then they take them to like the park and they let them go and hope for the best.
And let me tell you, when my pest man showed up this morning and I was in my Amy Schumer tour t-shirt that only says whore on the front with my sunglasses on because I had a headache from the sun. And I went in and changed and I was like, I had a, and you have like a half clean shirt over the tub. I was like, oh Jesus. So I'm like, I have to go back out and talk to him. So I go and I put on my Cat Ladies for Kamala shirt and I am convinced that he is MAGA. Like I'm convinced. And I go out and he's like, she got done dirty, ma'am. And I was like, thank you so much for seeing me. Like, I really appreciate that. Now let's go get them mice. Honestly, that was my win for today.
I have to say, like, listen, ladies, if you're a lady who is attracted to men, first of all, condolences. I've been in your shoes. I just want to say, like, there is no reason for us to do anything at all to appease men ever again. They hate us. They hate us. They hate us regardless. You don't have to do shit. Don't shave your legs. Don't shave your armpits. Grow a giant bush. Do whatever you want. Like, do what you want to your own. Like, use the freedom that you have. Like, you don't need to sacrifice your happiness and your peace to include people that are always going to disrespect you and never going to see you as a full human being. You don't owe them anything because they won't give you anything. They won't give you anything because they think you don't deserve anything. Build your own peace and like have your like. I'm saying I'm happily married and I love my husband. He's one of the good ones. Alyssa can attest. He is one of the good ones, right? But I think that like just given what's out there, you don't have to. We're at Golden Girls future, full steam ahead.
Build the lanai of your future. Where do you think about how you want to retire and spend your life and who you want to be surrounded by and work towards that?
Yes, and women, if we're good at anything, besides being passive aggressive, which I think is actually a good quality, it is building a chosen family, supporting each other, building societies, building communities, and we can do that with each other. Like we don't need we don't need to appeal to men to do that.
Do you know there was an all-female commune in Benton, Texas? and it existed from the late 1800s until around 1980. And the lore of the Benton commune was that it was started by women who had been abused by their husbands. And Erin, over the years, more and more women joined, and they built a flourishing society that was profitable, that had everything you could ever want. It was almost like a utopia, except the problem was that like IVF hadn't been invented then, and so it was hard to propagate. But I'm just saying, I got one of the last books on the commune from the Benton local library a couple of years ago because I was so fascinated by it.
That's amazing. Oh my God, that's super amazing. I also have one like more thought. I know this is like a little scattered. I still haven't cried, by the way. I don't know how. I was it's Santa Ana wind season here, which is why I'm like my eyes are super dry and I'm blinking a lot. It is not tears, which is a surprise. So actually, I have two more things. First of all, I think that I am, and a lot of people who were politically aware in 2016 and dealt with the crushing disappointment of that day are now more emotionally equipped to handle a Trump presidency than they were back then. 2016 crushed me. It crushed me. I was useless for days. I couldn't work. I couldn't think. I couldn't do anything. I didn't even want to leave the house. I was completely destroyed. This time, I recorded a podcast at 11 p.m. as they were calling Pennsylvania. I went home. I hugged my kids. I talked to my husband. I made some Trader Joe's cheese curds in the oven. They were so good.
I made expired Duncan Hines brownies.
Oh, wow.
They were good.
Well, how's your stomach?
It's all right, actually.
Oh, okay, good. But like, the strength that it took to just be like, all right, soldiering through this, despite the fact that my brain was like firing off in all directions and my fight or flight instinct was just ignited and I just wanted to get out of here. It just was like the only way out is through. And I now have the emotional faculties to deal with this in a much more efficient and healthy manner than I did last time. So that's one positive thing, right? Another thing that I realized, and I don't know if this is positive or negative, it just is. I was talking to one of my friends, and they pointed out that they were starting to become pessimistic about the optimism that their parents had instilled in them. And I was just thinking about that. Like, there have only really been 2 generations in American history where everything just kind of worked out. And those generations were the greatest generation. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that barely kind of worked out.
Right.
And boomers. Boomers just went through life with fingers on the scale, making sure that every step of their life, if they followed a series of steps, things would just kind of work out. Like if you, especially, I'm specifically talking about a privileged demographic within the privileged generation of baby boomers. Everything would just kind of work out. And as a result, baby boomers did not teach their children that actually things often do not work out. Often things do not work out. Often success is not guaranteed, and success is taken away from you in a way that is completely unfair and not within your control. And we're not given the skills to cope with that. I feel like right now, those of us who have kids or those of us who people look up to, those of us who mentor people at all, we're going to have to learn how to teach the people that we are raising or we are mentoring that how to survive, if that makes sense. Like the goal is not to just like, oh my God, everything's going to be fine. Because it might not actually. It might not be fine. We need to be prepared for the fact that it might not be fine. How does survival look if it's not fine? How do we play the hand we're dealt? And yeah, that was just a realization I had. We are very ill prepared for a sort of setback that feels irreparable by a generation that never had to deal with irreparable setbacks.
Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know, for me, it was like I was raised, okay, didn't work out. Fucking get up, figure out something else. Like you just can't, I was raised that you just can't sit back down, right? You have to keep going. And, you know, even at a young age, it's like, I guess this is the weirdest kind of lesson, but you know, like you're growing up and you're in high school and everyone's like, what college are you going to apply to? Or are you going to go to an Ivy League school? And I think about what a douchebag I would have turned out to be if I had gotten into an Ivy League school, and that it was a great swerve in my life that I got rejected by like half of the Ivy League and ended up at the University of Vermont. I wouldn't have met Bernie Sanders. Who knows who I might have become had I not spent 1994 to 1996 in Burlington, Vermont. Who knows? We wouldn't know each other. I wouldn't have worked in the White House. Like, there are so many things in my life that wouldn't have happened. And so I think that it is totally acceptable to be sad and to feel down now. And, you know, but like, what are you going to do?
This isn't the end of the story.
It's not the end of the story. This is a fucking bad bump for sure.
This is really bad.
This is deeply disappointing. You know, and I think that that's a hard feeling to feel sometimes, right? Disappointment is a hard one because, like, how do you get undisappointed, right? No, you're going to have to, like, sit in your disappointment for a while. And I think that part of it is thinking about how much him being president will affect people who aren't me, you know? I mean, I think that's, like, I think that you and I have a real empathy for that and for what's ahead, which is why we have to not give up.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and what would happen if we did give up? Like,
I wouldn't feel better.
No.
My anxiety wouldn't go away.
No, exactly. How do you feel when you have an email that is important that you don't respond to? Do you feel better by just continually not responding to it?
No, you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh my God, it's still there. I know it.
If you see that person who sent it to you, like, on the street, do you cross to the other side of the street?
Yeah,
so you don't
of course
have to
you do.
Them and be like, your email did find me, and I did not respond to it.
You're like, it's so weird. I had this iOS update and it ate all my emails.
It ate all my emails. What does giving up look like? I mean, very few people, like, there's no giving up. The only way out is through. And we each have to figure out how that looks for each of us. For me and you, Alyssa, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, that means yapping into a microphone, reading as much as I can, doing what I can, educating people the way that I can. For some people listening, it might be showing up to work at a school and being the best teacher that you can possibly be, despite the fact that there are so many people in power now who just think education is something to be discarded or shat upon or disrespected. It might be going to work at a hospital as a doctor, despite the fact that you are now not sure about the legality of some of the things that you were trained to do as a doctor. We all just have to figure out how we're going to show up for each other, for the country.
And sometimes you have to show up a little bit more when someone else can't show up that day. I think that's like a real... everyone over the next couple of weeks and months is going to feel the way they feel when they feel it. Some people don't feel things right now. Some people can go about what they were doing yesterday, today, like nothing's happened. But in a couple weeks, it might hit them. Or when I just think that being as aware and present for the people in your life over the next couple of months, it's more than about right now. And it's you know, holding the space for people when it hits them or when they feel the disappointment or when Trump starts doing the things, you know?
And I'm gonna close this segment with this. One thing that I will say, do not cry on camera. Do not cry don't cry on camera. Like if you're gonna be in like public, people are taking pictures of you, you're a Kamala Harris person, don't cry. It's gonna become a MAGA meme.
Yeah, don't let them. I'll tell you, you know, Erin, that's actually incredible advice. In 2004, when John Kerry lost, we were at the speech at Faneuil Hall, and we cried, and it was a AP photo, all of us crying, and that's fuck off.
Yeah, no, that's bullshit. We don't need to. Don't give them the satisfaction of your pain. Share it with people who you know will hold you and support you, and help you get to a point where you're ready to get up again and keep going. Because that's all we can do.
Yep.